Thank you so much for doing this with us. Great to have all of you here. I thought I'll just start by asking Paul to talk us through what I understand was a 20-year process of thinking about this material.
I think I made a terrible mistake being honest about that when I was first asked about it, because it's kind of, it's in some ways embarrassing. You think, well, what were you doing for 20 years? But if I'm philosophical about it or emotional about it, so I was waiting for all of these people to come. Maybe, yeah. I really mean that. Leo and I tried to work together a long time ago. That didn't happen. I've had pieces of a story for a long time and started to get pretty serious about it about 6 or 7 years ago. Because Adam Sumner, our wonderful producer and assistant director, who's worked with Leo, who's worked for me for a long time, said, right, let's go do this now. And so here we are.
Mm-hmm. You said you were waiting for all of them. Would you say in a way it's also a film that was kind of waiting for this moment?
Yeah, I mean, you can't get too philosophical about it. You know, each movie has its moment. You make them, you put every single thing you have into it every time, and sometimes that connects and sometimes that doesn't. But you don't care less. They're, you know, a product of you and your life and the commitment of time, and this just feels quite special in terms of the collection of people who've come together. Not the least of which is Chase, because she wasn't even born when I started thinking about this. But to get everybody at this time, you know, Sean's been around, but we've known each other, but here we are. We worked together before briefly. Regina and I have been neighbors for years. Benicio and I worked together, but yeah, just something through the push of Adam and the luck of the draw, we all ended up here.
You said you and Leo have been wanting to work together for a while. Do you remember when you guys started talking? Leo, he actually cast your father before you, in fact.
That's right.
Your dad, George, is in Licorice Pizza.
Yeah. I needed somebody that looked like Pablo Ferro. I don't know if any Pablo Ferro fans around, but Pablo Ferro is an amazing, unique artist who did great titles and commercials and things like that. He's no longer with us, and I had the idea of casting Leo's dad, George, so yeah, that was really fun. But Leo and I met a million years ago.
Were there moments where you came close to working together?
No, I don't know that we came close together. I think we came very close in Boogie Nights and talked about that, but that didn't work out. And then and there was always a kind of mutual respect and a kind of feeling and a desire to get going and to do something. But this seemed really right in terms of where he was at and where I was at. And so, yeah, worth the wait.
Yeah. Leo, would love to hear from your point of view. Was this a project that Paul had talked about over the years?
Yeah, we met a long time ago, and we're talking about Boogie Nights, and just to watch, a generational director like that blossom and watch his filmography unfold before your eyes. And I've just been a fan of the fact that he creates these worlds that are so singular, so unique, and you as an audience member, I mean, I'm just a fan. You become enveloped in these worlds that come from his imagination. And I think everyone here just feels the same way. We're just proud to be a part of his filmography. But more than that, as Paul was saying, to be a part of a film like this that really feels like a lightning rod moment in holding a mirror up to society now, the divisive nature of where we're at, the extremism, but all with this great satire and epic scope. It was just, we're all going to say yes to that opportunity.
Yeah. I'd love to hear you maybe say a bit about the character of Bob. We see him in the film at two very different points of his life, and I'm curious about that. I mean, that 16-year gap in the middle is really kind of an important aspect of this film.
It came from the singular idea of the fact that my character in a lot of ways is in the backdrop. He's like an extra to Perfidia's extremism. And I just love the idea of him opening, his opening shot, he has a wheelbarrow with some makeshift explosives, and he's just trying to catch up, you know. And then the idea of what you think is going to be a traditional espionage thriller of a man that's going to use all his tactics from his past to succeed, and he can't remember the damn password. He's too stoned. I mean, that one singular idea kind of consumes the entirety of the character in a lot of ways. And I think we got to this point after point in the movie where we were at pivotal decisions with the character. And working with Paul, you just don't take the obvious choice. And he's like, no, this is who this man is. He just keeps moving forward. There is no great heroic moment. And that kind of unlocked the character in a lot of ways for me. Plus the idea that, he's, just trying his best to be a dad. I mean, that's the heart of it.
His heroic moment is in the 16 years, of raising her, the off-camera heroism of raising her. We don't get to see that part, but we feel him as a hero anyway, even if he doesn't, quote unquote, save the day.
Actually, maybe wanted to bring Sean in. Your characters, Bob and Lockjaw, are these like antagonists, and then watching the film again today, I realized they only share one scene.
That's right.
In the supermarket.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's interesting that there's this, obviously they revolve around Perfidia and the Willa characters, but Sean, maybe you can say a bit about this incredible creation, Lockjaw. You kind of out-pensioned with the names.
Yeah.
But I mean, just the name Lockjaw obviously suggests a certain physicality, and just how you worked out this character.
I think that with anything that I would find myself really excited about or proud of, this was sort of a gift. Not sort of. This was a gift to get as a piece, and as an actor, I think that I've been more value added to a project when I've had the experience of kind of early in the reading of a script the first time, sort of hearing the music of a character. And this one just, it clicked. I have no idea, and I don't think there was, Paul would only know how much I interpreted and how much he wrote me literally or subliminally to hear the music that way. So it's what I heard, it's what he guided all the nuance or the levels through, and I got to just be an actor, which I liked.
Maybe we'll bring in Teyana. And your character also is really only in the first act of the film, the first 30, 40 minutes, but she certainly leaves an impression. I think, the rest of the film is in a way like everybody picking up after what Perfidia did. So I'm wondering if, you can say a little bit about casting Teyana in this very important role.
Well, I needed somebody who was going to make a very big impression for 40 minutes. And the right man for the job was, I feel lucky the day we connected. I put a lot in that character, a lot of pressure on myself to get that character right, because she meant a lot to me. She's an extremely exciting character, extremely volatile, extremely untrustworthy, but magnetic, and it was a terrific part. And so it was pretty clear after getting together with her that I just felt very strongly that she was just going to be not only terrific in the part, but a terrific partner to work with, and she is and was big time. Can't say enough about her. Come on.
Oh my God, the PTA is talking about me. He knows I exist, you guys. Y'all have to understand how big of a deal this is. I'm still pinching myself. Whew. All right. Sorry, carry on. Oh,
we
it's
want to
for
hear
me.
from you, yeah, about.
Oh my God. No, I literally was not trying to be funny. I was so serious. You don't even understand. I'm PTA's biggest fan, and I call him Chef P.T. Anderson because I always say, let that boy cook. Let him cook. He just be cooking. To be able to work with him is like being in a kitchen, and he's the master chef. And I'm the student, and I just want to learn, and I call myself SpongeBob SquarePants because I'm just a sponge, and I'm just gonna like soak it all up. But yes, I love Paul and just the environment he creates, his gentle leadership, how he mentors us. To me, I always say he reminds me of a quarterback. That's the captain of the team, but they're on a field with you. You get what I'm saying? Like, they make smart and quick decisions, and that's what he does. And that's the person that I want to get on the field and play for. That's the person that I'm honored that he's able to trust us to receive the ball and take it to the touchdown. So I'm honored to be a part, and I'm just so happy to play Perfidia and, being able to get into this character that's just unapologetically herself.
Another amazing name for the character. Named after the song that we hear.
Absolutely. Perfidia, named after the Alberto Dominguez song.
Chase, I don't know if everybody here knows this, but this is your first feature film. Paul, I want to know how you found Chase, and Chase, I want to know about reading for the part.
The old-fashioned way, traditional auditions. Cassandra Kalakundis, who's a casting director.
And you've worked with her for years, right?
Forever and ever and ever, and she's really terrific. And if I'm really honest, there was a minute where we started to think about this film a little while ago, and we started looking for Willas, and we didn't really see anything, so I didn't get too serious. I didn't get ready to do it. And then as we came around this time, in this incarnation, I saw a tape of Chase. Became aware of Chase. And I felt pretty strongly right away that she was going to be terrific, and we did a really good old-fashioned get-together to audition for the part, and auditioned a few different people, but Regina and Leo were there, and they started to kind of look at me and make fun of me because, Chase's audition was about an hour and a half, and everybody else's was a few minutes, so it was pretty obvious that I had found our daughter, our hero.
And not to interject, but the auditioning process, I don't think, was a traditional one. It was like a 6-month discussion with karate classes and chemistry workshops and finding our characters. And then I think he casually at some point said to her, "Oh, by the way, you have the part, right?"
Very casually. And then started talking shop immediately after, and was like, "Okay, so you're gonna come back out here and we're gonna start your karate training again, officially." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. You're just gonna brush past the fact that you just cast me in your movie." But yeah, it was literally months and months of auditioning and going in for chemistry reads and camera tests. And every time I was like, this is so much fun, getting to be in Paul's world and getting to play with Leo and Regina. And I hadn't met Teyana or Sean or Benicio yet until later on. But just getting the opportunity to play and be in his world was such a gift. And it was one that I was not taking lightly. And I wanted to make sure that I was making myself proud, but also doing justice by Willa and showing Paul what I can do. But yeah, it was a crazy long audition process, but it was a lot of fun.
I'd love to hear, actually, both of you talk about the scene that you have together at home before she leaves. It seems like a really important moment for, the emotional core of the film.
I'll say a little bit and then I'll hand it off. But we did realize that we had one bite at the apple to show these two together, to show you what their dynamic was. But we're picking up in the middle of this incredibly tense moment between them. They are not seeing eye to eye. She is starting to feel like a prisoner in this cabin in the woods. She's not a little kid anymore. He's hungover. He's paranoid. And so that could go a few different ways. That could be like these people are just at each other's throats. But I think what happens, because they're both so good, is that you get that dramatic purpose of it, but you see that there is a tremendous amount of love and affection between them. They're just not communicating properly. And it gives them great opportunity for the humor of it, you know, to see what happens when somebody drives down this is the dramatic situation that allows us to get to know them. We shot that very early, and it felt like we were off to a very good start after spending 2 or 3 days doing that scene.
Yeah, plus the idea of no phones was a big one.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a world at some point where I think Paul was toying with, what if there are no phones? And through these workshops, we got to do these sort of chemistry reads. She worked out, well, of course I'm going to have a phone. And that became this pivotal point in the movie. But I just love the way that Paul introduces this family dynamic of one, you know, sort of washed up revolutionary that is kind of a hip neck, as we would call it. And I only got that term when I went up north to Northern California. I realized there's hip necks, there's hippies that are also rednecks. It's get off my property, but I'm also woke. That clicked for me about Bob, and then the fact that he's trying to, you know, connect with his daughter, and there's this generational disconnect, and then they're off.
Yes. That was actually, like, doing that scene was a lot of fun because we did get to work on it for 2 to 3 days. And that was also, like, my audition scene. And it was a scene that we had built a lot of, like, Bob and Willa's dynamic off of. And I really love the way that it ended up coming together because I feel like you get to see the true them. But, yeah, I mean, I feel like anything I say would just be highlighting what you've already said.
Phones are very important in this film, actually. You mentioned it not just because of as a plot device, but I remember the first time I was watching, I was trying to situate myself in time, about like because of all the payphones, and then like the lack or presence of cell phones, and then of course an incredible scene, phone call, several incredible scenes, but one especially amazing one, Leo, when you finally get the password, code speak. Yeah, I'm just curious about like that being something you were thinking about.
Well, there was always phones of some kind for him to communicate, payphones, but it was always this kind of avoidance of it's generally so boring when people are looking at phones. Or I kind of kept thinking, well, if you make it feel like a Western, then there's no phones in Westerns. It was kind of like avoiding the reality of the time as being quite afraid of it in some ways. And then so you have to ask yourself, so what are we doing? Are we creating some parallel world? Well, that's not going to really hold up. That doesn't really add up. I think it was Leo and Chase who really brought it to my eyes and my attention that this is a key plot point, a character point. She's going to have a phone. That's an act of rebellion. And when they kind of brought that to my eyes, I was like, I can get behind that. Now that means something in terms of people having phones in movies and what it can propel the plot along through a choice that she makes to rebel. I really got on board with that, but it took them too long to try to talk me into that one. I'm sorry it took me so long.
I wanted to bring Regina in. I think watching the film a second time, I'm just realizing the significance of your character, the moments at which she appears. She's sort of throughout the film, and then she just disappears and pops back up again as this sort of recurring witness, like a kind of grounding presence for the other characters around her. So I'm wondering if you can say a bit about Deandra.
Well, everyone knows I'm a huge fan of Paul's. Paul, you know that, right? And so I think when you first told me about the film, he told me about Deandra and what her role was in the movie, that there was this young girl and she would try to rescue her. But I guess I failed, huh? Kinda. Yeah.
Yeah. You did and you didn't, though.
Yeah, she did and she didn't. Enough, right? She does enough. And I think, then Paul one day sent me a New Year's text and said, "Happy New Year, Deandra." Did you say that? It was so sweet. And it was so real. And I think
I think figuring out Deandra's, you said it so much better, but figuring out who Deandra was and just realizing what her presence would be in the film and what her purpose would be in the film was just what Paul and I talked about and worked on a lot. And then, I mean, that was kind of it. So she's a very emotionally special character to me.
And Benicio, many amazing sequences in the film, many funny ones too. But I think there's something about the Bob, Sensei, Sergio, little buddy movie within the movie that's wonderful. Just like, I don't know what else to say. It's just an incredible sequence in so many ways. And I'd just love to hear the two of you talk about how you found these roles and your dynamic.
Well, hello. Well, I think it all started with Paul. I don't know what came first, but I think the first thing that he told me about this character in this movie, he didn't really explain that much. He talked about a character, karate instructor, and then he sent me a picture of a poster of a tiger dressed in a judo kimono. And I think that kind of said it all. I think that was Sensei Sergio St. Carlos. That tiger, tigers are the man's best friend, Bob's best friend. I think that was the essence, the beginning of it all for me. And then, having the opportunity to collaborate with Paul and Leo, because I came in later in the process, and working with both of them was really special.
I'm told I only have time for one more question, so maybe I'll just throw out something that all of you could weigh in on. I'm curious about the experience of being on a set like this one, which is, by some measures, your biggest film, your film with the most action sequences. Regina, I saw an interview you did maybe like a few days ago where you said when you read Paul's scripts, he doesn't really describe those sequences, he just writes chaos, TBD. So I'm wondering what it's like to experience chaos, TBD.
Oh,
film set.
it's pretty incredible. I mean, you'll read it, and I mean, for me, I said to him one day, I'm so excited to see what it's going to be like to watch what your script is like and then watch it come to life. And so Chaos TBD, the first one I read, I think was when they did the bank. Chaos TBD to me means like, oh, it's going to be people running. He's like, okay, there's helicopters in the sky. You're going to run. Teyana, you're going to run about 6 miles. We were driving through cars that were actually like literally physically bumping into each other. It was true. It was chaos in perfect art form, but in a way that my imagination didn't have. But I think that's what's amazing about Paul is the film, literally, as collaborative as he is, there's a film that lives inside of his head, like visually, and it's pretty spectacular to watch it, become live.
I would just only add that TBD is a very important thing, because the whole film is TBD in a lot of ways. I mean, my experience with Benicio del Toro in this film was an amazing one. I mean, he came in, we shut down production, we knew he was the only person to play this part, and he came in with 1,000 different ideas, full ownership of the character, and we basically had a TBD moment where we just went off on a road trip. I mean, all that stuff was kind of made up through a few conversations during the week. He's like, I'm going to have an underground system like this for immigrants. I'm going to know the woman at the corrections officer. She's going to have a connection with me. And I'm going to know the nurse. And we're going to do this, and we just went off on a road trip. So all that stuff, that TBD is the spontaneity that he creates for all of us when we get to work. It's that feeling that anything is possible.
Paul, do you want to weigh in on that?
Did you want to say something, Teyana?
Yeah, I know we gotta go, but I just wanted to, one, say happy anniversary to the Masters, 13 years old today. Make some noise for his movie, The Master, 13th anniversary. Yeah. Yeah, happy anniversary. Yeah.
Wow, 13 years ago.
13 years. Ooh, he can't.
Thank you.
Oh!
Oh, I don't know what
I
to
mean,
add.
just because chaos, filmmaking is obviously also not chaos. It cannot be, it's the opposite of chaos, but you're also orchestrating.
No, yeah, don't get the impression that it's chaos for chaos' sake or that it can't be safe. That's why we have Adam Sumner, our great first assistant director and producer, who made everybody safe and no one gets hurt, and is also smart enough to schedule a movie to know we know each other well enough to know the scenes that are written that work in the script and the scenes that will need finding, and that there can be parameters to it, and you can, a sandbox is created, and then within that sandbox, you get a certain amount of tools that you go to work with, and you attack. And then, the kind of deal that you make with yourselves is just don't color outside the lines. Now, he makes a nice sandbox for us to go and play in. You have a certain amount of time. And in the collaboration of just mutual respect and joy for what we're doing, that's when the stuff emerges. You know eventually he's gonna fall off a roof and get tased, and he needs help. But within that, he could give us the freedom to do what we need to do, and working with a crew that can pivot. It's not just we're going to look this way and only this way. Everybody goes, we're going to look every which way, and we have to be ready. And we've got 2 weeks to do it all. So just don't go over 2 weeks. Get on with it. Have fun. Be safe. And that's the kind of chaos TBD that I think you make room for. Besides, it's really boring to read about car chases or action things. People they skip all that part. They just go to the part where people talk anyway.
All right. I'm afraid we are out of time, but I want to thank all of you and congratulations on this amazing film.
Thank you, guys.